Hi, I'm Kathy Sullivan Wint. I am a psychologist and owner here at New Connections Counseling Center. And we are here today to introduce Dr. Ro Nicolosi. She is a psychologist I've known for a while now. We both spent some time working in university counseling centers, and we worked at Towson University Counseling Center together. And I'm thrilled to have her now joining us here at New Connections. But I'm realizing no one else really knows her. So we thought we'd have a little conversation this morning so that you can get a sense of Ro. And let's just dive in. Is that good with you, Ro? Okay.
Sounds perfect, Kathy. Thank you.
Well, I guess starting off, being a therapist is kind of an odd job in some ways. Like what brought you here? What made you decide to be a therapist?
So, a good question. I spent 2 years of my life actually thinking about that before I made the plunge to go back to school. So I had been working in corporate America, and I stopped and realized that my career was going to shift. And I reflected on what it was I liked working, why I liked working in corporate America at the time. And it was because of the opportunity I had to interact with people, managing people, but really working with people really closely, getting to know them and helping them. I remember a young man came into my office who he and his wife were attempting to adopt a child from I think it was Vietnam at the time, and something had fallen through, and he was sharing that story with me, and he was in tears, and my heart just went out to him, and I thought, gosh, this is how I want to help people. I don't want to go back and like do my Excel spreadsheets that I was working on that day. So long story forward, I decided to go back to school to become a psychologist.
That was the meaningful stuff for you, that real human element.
The human element, and it's really helping people with their very, very specific issues that, there's not a lot of people you can talk to about those kind of things that and really open up. And honestly, I mean, here's this guy, he was my he worked for me, and he's in his, at the time, this is years ago, suit and tie, and he's like crying, and I'm giving him tissues. I realized that connection and being able to empathize with somebody and to really be able to connect with them was very unique. And so I find now as a therapist that's what I enjoy doing, is really connecting with people at some really very, very, a very deep level, hearing their concerns, thoughts, questions, dilemmas, and then really being empathic and like really trying to understand where they're coming from.
And what kind of work do you focus on, or what kind of problems do people come in to see you to address?
Yeah. So I started, kind of as a generalist, and was a person who was learning and did a lot to work with lots of different people. I think that if I think about my specific area as I've moved in my career that I've really focused on now is I love working with LGBTQ people, and really people who are going through identity changes. So, identity development in the LGBTQ community is quite extensive. So that is an important group of folks for me to work with. And as a lesbian, I feel very comfortable working in the community because I probably have struggled through some of that stuff myself. And if not, I have a very deep regard and, again, empathy for whatever folks in that community might be experiencing with respect to relationships, family, careers, identity. I mean, there's so many things that we talk about in the room that I really enjoy helping people negotiate
Navigating
through.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And I always hate when people ask me this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How would you describe your approach or your therapeutic style? As you know, like we all do our jobs so differently, and one therapist can be quite different from another. So can you speak at all to kind of what your style is like?
Sure. I'm really mean and very tough, and I try to like answer everything. No. So I will say that I am a person who starts with a fairly organized approach to getting to know the person. I learn a lot about people's background and about their history, and try to figure out, maybe where some of their problems are coming from. So a lot of insight and exploration. work to begin.
Mm,
And then I can kind of veer off to a very CBT focused agenda if people are really interested in learning skills and tools, maybe to manage anxiety, or they're struggling with depression. We can do behavior activation projects. We can do automatic thought records. We can, and so that gets very structured. Or, and this is depending on the issue as well as the person. And I
uh-huh.
try to work with the person to know exactly what it is they're interested in. Or we can do something that's a little bit more insight driven, more exploratory, kind of more what would be considered traditional talking therapy. And
Mm,
then to surround it all, I will say that I try to do this with as much humor as I can possibly bring in the room. And I can assure you, talking on a videotape like this, it's really hard to be funny, but I do try to be funny and have a good time when I'm working with my clients in the room.
yeah. Yeah. Watching a video is a little different for us therapists. We're not trained on this, but we're doing it because we feel like it's important to give people a sense of who we are before they take the step to come in and meet with us. So I appreciate you doing this today.
Hopefully.
Um, and is there anything in specific that you would say you're proud of as a therapist? Something you're like, I do that really well. People might remark um, on something about you that stands out to them.
So I'm not sure it's exactly like what stands out about me. I have I guess, a career accomplishment that I was very happy about that I will share, and that it's something I know, Kathy, we've talked about that hopefully down the road we might be able to introduce to New Connections, which is running therapy groups. And I am very interested in running groups. And I have done that for stress and anxiety management in the past. So that would be for general population of folks who are dealing with stress and anxiety issues. I also have run many groups for LGBTQ people. And we've done that over the years. And so I was formerly employed by Johns Hopkins University, and I ran a group every single semester for 10 years. And so that's really something that I'm really proud of, because it was,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it was ever had been that level of consistency with a group running over time. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to hopefully innovating with you all,
Yeah, groups
or
can
with
be hard
us,
to
because
find in
now
the
it's me.
community. I'm sorry.
I said you, but I mean us, because
Yeah.
it's us.
Yes, you're now part of it. I know you just started last
I
week.
am.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, we really would like to get groups started here. I think they're so additive for people, and there are just not enough good groups out there. So the idea that you're able to get a group off the ground and keep it going for 10 years, I think that's a great ad for our counseling center.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Particularly for populations. I mean, groups can focus on similar populations or similar presenting clinical issue. So, the anxiety and stress management was focused on anybody with that presenting issue,
Mhm.
whereas the LGBT group is like with the people, and those groups that bring people together that have shared experiences and all can be so valuable, because you finally have somebody that you can speak to in a really safe and really confidential space about stuff that you've never been able to share with anybody before. It's really a special environment.
That's right. That's right. And didn't you run a group for women in transition before? Or did I just make that up?
You made that up,
I made that
actually.
up.
That
Okay.
was actually that you made that up, but that was one of my career goals,
Ah,
which was to start actually a business that was for women in transition, but I
ah,
didn't do that. And the acronym was WIT,
wit,
Women in
bringing that
Transition.
humor in again.
I thought that would be funny, but that didn't
Maybe we
happen.
talked about,
But
I'm sorry, it's hard to
we did
talk
talk
about.
about,
I think we
yeah,
talked about the
we did.
possibility of you maybe running a group like that, because there's so many transitions that you've worked with in your career, like women going
That
through
is
divorce, women going through career changes, all sorts, becoming a parent or having the kids move out, retiring, all of those kinds of things.
that is true. That is a desire. So I was being really specific when you said I had run it. I have not run a specific group with that focus,
Yeah,
but that is absolutely a passion for me.
yeah.
having matured through a lot of those stages myself, as you can see by looking at me, I have had experiences that are really quite wide, and would love to share and work with folks who are also having those kinds of big, big points in their life. They're all
Yep.
big change points.
Yep.
Women.
And let's switch gears here for a second. What about outside of work? What do you like to do in your spare time?
So I am an avid golfer,
Hmm.
which is a big pastime for me. And I was actually just talking to a friend about a quote actually that was first stated by, and I have to remember the author of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, who would be Mark Twain, who said golf was a great walk ruined. So I think that's always the humor in playing golf, a great walk ruined, because there's so much stress. But anyway, I don't know why I went down that path. But anyway, I like to play golf. I also have a young son who I spend a lot of my time with. He's an avid basketball player, so we attend a lot of basketball games, play a lot of basketball, shoot a lot of hoops in the yard. I My favorite place in the world is the beach, so I spend a lot of time on the beach in the summertime, and during that time, I do absolutely nothing, which is great
Yeah.
to relax and maybe to read, although I tend to carry books to the beach more than I read them,
More
but
than
at
you
least
read
I'm
them.
pretending I'm going to read. But I do, tell people what I'm supposed to be reading or pretending to read. Yeah, so those are the things that I do throughout the year.
Yeah, I can tell you the stack of books that are next to my bed, not necessarily reading them, but intending to one day.
Yeah. Yes, I have that stack too.
You
It's
have
a
that
very
stack.
impressive, a very impressive series of titles. Very impressive.
Well, is there anything that we should highlight before we wrap up for today? Oh, you do couples work. We didn't mention that. I know you do mostly individuals work, but you do a fair amount of couples work as well.
Right. Yeah, on my caseload, I always have a number of couples. I think it's a nice augmentation of my focus because it's different work. Currently, even though I've only been here a few weeks, as you know, I am working with a few couples, and it's been great. And so in my couples work, I focus on, well, I use imago therapy as my main tool. I'm not an imago therapist per se. Imago therapy is very, very manualized and kind of like very um, almost kind of rigid in its approach, but I use the premise of imago therapy, which is really based on the imago dialogue, and it's really helping people in relationships learn how to speak in dialogue as opposed to in monologue.
Mm,
We are very much individualistic and self-driven people as a country, as a rule, and so much of our discussions are very much like this. They're not really I speak, you speak,
mm,
and we're both thinking about what we're going to speak next, as opposed to really enjoining with the person.
mm,
So imago dialogue can be really helpful in helping people relate better and to really occupy the space between themselves as
mm,
opposed to the space um, within them
mm,
individually. So
mhm.
it's a cool theory.
Yeah, it's about
Works
really
nice.
people connecting, seemingly like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, so a lot of my work, and when I'm with couples, a lot of my work is doing this. It's
Yeah.
all
Okay.
about this. It's not about this. It's not
Okay.
about, it's all about this. It's what's
Okay.
between you, not with, we're not with what's within you.
Okay.
I mean, that's important, but what we're working on is
That's
within us,
the
with
job. Yeah. Okay.
the connection. Yeah.
Well, my last question is, everyone has different ideas about
Oh,
therapy.
okay. Sorry, Kathy, let me just interrupt you if you don't mind. Sorry. And so
Yeah, please.
within the couples work, and I don't even like using couples therapy, honestly, because not all relationships are coupled. So
That's right.
I actually do call it relationship therapy or
Uh-huh.
relationship. And so I just wanted to share with the folks that may be listening to this that I do work with a wide range of relationships. So it's not
Mm,
just a married heterosexual couple. And I just happened to talk to somebody today about polyamory,
Mhm.
and it doesn't necessarily have to be done in the context of the relationships work, but I just want to just introduce the fact that our couples have evolved into more than just couples.
Yeah, yeah, that the relationship therapy is broader than what some people might kind of
It's broader.
think of. Yep, yep.
Yep.
Well, good. I'm glad you stopped me. The question I was going to throw
Yeah.
at
Sorry.
you is just, what do you wish people knew about therapy? There's a lot of, you know, different ideas about it. And, you've seen lots of people come into therapy for the first time. And like, what is it you kind of maybe would like people to know about therapy?
Well, I guess one of the first things I think about with that question is you don't have to come to therapy when you have a crisis and when
Mm,
it's like an immediate emergent issue. A lot of folks will think, oh, I don't have time, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the resources, which can be limiting. But I think it can be very helpful to come in prior to the crisis,
mhm,
because then you've worked with somebody to really learn strategies, techniques, or thought processes, or how you're going to deal with your emotions and feelings before whatever might happen. And as a matter of fact, a couple of the couples that I'm seeing now, they're just getting married. And what a beautiful time to actually do couples work or relationship work. They're at the pinnacle of their kind of romantic love place, and they're
mhm,
looking to improve their relationship. I think that goes to individuals as well. So therapy doesn't have to just be when something's really bad and you need to come in for help. It's to improve. I'm really into, like, every day is a better day, and so
mhm.
life is just improving, and sometimes having a partner to help you with that, your therapist, just to make life every day incrementally different. One day it'll be better. Maybe you'll go backwards 2 steps. The next day you get 2 steps forward, but it's kind of just keeping focused. So that's kind of what I would share about therapy.
Yeah,
Therapy's work, it's work, but it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be so, crisis driven.
yeah. I like that point because I find a lot of people do come in when they're in extreme pain, which makes sense. It can be scary to go to therapy, and when you're in enough pain, that might be the time that you decide to go. But I find it's often once people get through the crisis where like the next level of work really happens. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in fact, sometimes when people come in and there's not a crisis, they say like, "Is this an okay reason to be here?" Like, is my problem big enough to
Exactly.
be here? And I think you make a great point that it's really,
It,
I think, in a sense, an investment that we make in ourselves and in our relationships. Um, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's good. Good point. An investment. I like that terminology too, because we talk a lot about self-care, and a lot of folks think, they go off and do that on their own. And sometimes having a therapist to help you with that can be very helpful and very constructive. So,
Hmm. Well, great. I'm so glad we did this. I really feel like I got a different sense of you or a fuller sense of you. And I think people who might be looking for a therapist will get that too. So thank you.
well, I hope so. And I just say hello to everybody. I'm so happy to be at this organization. It's a great place. And so if you don't see me, maybe there's somebody else here that you'd like to see. But welcome.
Great. Thanks, Ro. Take care.